Good afternoon, everyone. What a nice group we have gathered on such a beautiful day. My name is Susan Wilmers, and I'm honored to facilitate this dignified event today. At the risk of rambling, I'm committed to staying on point and following the script. Let's start out the ceremony with the pledge of the flag. I'd like to ask Mike White to come forward to lead us in the pledge. After graduating from college, Mike was drafted and served our country in the U.S. Army from 1970 to 72. Throughout his adult life, he served our community as a teacher and an EMT and was inducted into the Lapeer Alumni Hall of Fame in 2009.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mike. We welcome all of you to the 2016 Distinguished Hall of Honor ceremony. I'd like to offer a special welcome to members of the Hall who are in attendance today. If you are a distinguished alumnus, would you please stand? Please remain standing. Now we would like to ask all Lapeer alumni to stand. What a nice representation of our community. We'd especially like to recognize our president of the Lapeer Alumni Association, Dick Sullivan, and he will be welcoming our honorees into the hall this afternoon. Finally, we offer a special thank you to our Board of Education members who may be in attendance, teachers and administrators who are in attendance today. Before we transition into our ceremony, we'd like to take a moment to honor two very special alumni who have passed away in the last year. Both of them made significant contributions to our school and community. Just weeks after last year's assembly, distinguished alumnus and charter member of the Lapeer Alumni Association, Hollis Hayes, passed away. Hollis was likely the most outspoken and visible member of the association for many years. He devoted much of his life to the preservation of history, including the history of our schools as laid out in his famous book entitled Remembering. It chronicled our schools dating back to the 1920s. Hollis, who graduated from Lapeer High School in 1950, was inducted into the Hall of Honor in the inaugural class of 2006. Hollis Hayes' passion for Lapeer and our schools remains. And then just last month, the Lapeer Alumni Association lost another charter member, a woman who may have taught a few of you in this very building. Phyllis Lang, a teacher for more than 40 years, passed away on October 13th. Phyllis was beloved by generations of students in this community, remembered fondly for her Big Top Circus program, starring members of her first grade classes for 25 years. In 2013, Phyllis was named Female Citizen of the Year. On behalf of our Lapeer Alumni Association and Lapeer Community Schools, we offer our sincerest condolences to the friends and family of Phyllis and Hollis. We hope that you will join us after the ceremony to share your memories, including those of Phyllis and Hollis, as well as our honorees today. We have refreshments for you and a display of Lapeer Schools memorabilia. We encourage all Lapeer alum to get involved in the Lapeer Alumni Association. The Alumni Association generously funds scholarships to graduating seniors each year. The cost to join is minimal. And if you graduated from high school in Lapeer, you're automatically eligible. We have a sign-in sheet and applications available in the hallway, and if you are available for the monthly lunch this Tuesday, if you could see Barb Sweeney, can you wave, Barb? She will reserve your spot today. To begin our program, we welcome a musical presentation by Hall of Honor award-winning musician Deb Barber, and she is accompanied by Lapeer alum Emily Barber.
This is called ROCK in the USA. They come from the cities and they come from the smaller towns. Beat up cars and guitars and drummers going crack, boom, bam. ROCK in the USA. ROCK in the USA. ROCK in the USA. Hey, rockin' in the USA. Well, I said goodbye to my family, said goodbye to my friends. With pipe dreams in my hand and very little money in my hands. Some are black and some are white. Ain't if I just sleep on my floor tonight. The blind faith in Jesus, you know that they just might. Rockin' in the USA. Voices from nowhere and voices from the larger town. Filled our fear for the dreams and turned our world upside down. They were Frankie Lyman, Bobby Fuller, Mitch Ryder. They were rockin'. Jack Wilson, Shingle, Law, Lou Russell. They were rockin'. Spotlight, Martha Reeves, and don't forget James Brown. Rockin' in the USA. Hey! 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 ROCK in the USA. ROCK in the USA. ROCK in the USA. Rockin' in the USA. Woo! Thank you.
Thanks, Deb and Emily. That was great. So, all fired up now, right? Superintendent Wandry is now in his 6th year as leader of our school system. He's been instrumental in moving Lapeer Community Schools forward on an ambitious strategic plan centered on innovation. During his tenure, the district has been recognized across the state as an example of an organization staking its future on innovation. Please welcome Mr. Matt Wandry, who will speak on behalf of Lapeer Community Schools.
Thanks, Sue. Such a great event to be present at each year, and certainly as a not Lapeer alumni, this was an introduction to me and our community and how special it is that we honor the past. Certainly we spend a great deal of time in education in many organizations of our size talking about the importance of the future, what are the next steps, strategic planning, 5 and 10 year long-range plans. And certainly we've been very proud of the work that's been celebrated here on Lapeer in the last 6 years. Obviously the merger of our high schools being the keynote accomplishment of that time, but also really spending a significant amount of effort, time, and treasure focusing on more and advanced programs for our kids. Certainly Lapeer is a great place to go to school, it's a great place to work and live, and we have to take special care to maintain our small town values but have world-class opportunities for our young people. And while we've been able to accomplish that in addition to improving many of our facilities, we have to take time, and this event is a great reminder of remembering the people that have made our community school system so great. And what's wonderful to note of this year's inductees, this 2016 class, is that you've got 3 people who not only gave significantly to the history of Lapeer Community Schools, but continue to do so. As they work, as they volunteer in their philanthropic efforts, their family time continues to give back to their community. So today's event is about recognizing their accomplishments, both past and present. So that is something that makes community strong. And without people like today's inductees, we don't have a strong school system. We don't have a strong community. And it's been an honor serving as your superintendent for the last 6 years. And on behalf of Lapeer Community Schools Board of Education, our district leadership team, and all of our staff, I want to say congratulations to this year's inductees and welcome. So thank you very much. Let's have a great afternoon.
Thank you, Matt. To quote an American humorist, Mark Twain said, "The most important days in your life are the day you were born and the day you find out why." That isn't what you thought I was going to say, is it? Each of our 2016 Hall of Honor inductees found their passion. They experienced extraordinary success in their businesses and careers, and they continue to challenge the status quo, dedicating themselves to service to better their own communities. There's a beautiful video that's been prepared that will highlight the lives of each of our inductees. nice. It just gives you a completely different view of these grown-up people that we know, right? I'd like to introduce our 2016 inductees. Each of our honorees has chosen someone to introduce them, which will give you a little more personal take on who they are. And we also invite our inductees to say a few words. Rick Burrow, from the class of 1982 at Lapeer East. Connie Helm, Feifer, from the class of 65, Lapeer High School. And Gary Phillips, from Lapeer East High School class of 1986. Our first inductee is 1982 Lapeer East High School graduate Rick Burrow. A lifelong resident of the Lapeer area, Rick Burrow, has achieved significant business success during his career. He began his career in the printing and newspaper business working at the County Press and Webco. He went to work for the commercial web printing company Michigan Web Press in Davisburg in the late 80s, ultimately being named a partner there, and in 1990 taking sole ownership. In 1998. In 2003, as owner and president of Jams Media, he launched the Lapeer Area View, or LA View as we know it. Wes Smith, publisher of the View newspaper group, credits Burrow with the revival of community journalism in Lapeer County. At that time, the county press was owned by an out-of-state corporation that did not prioritize local news and sports coverage. Burrow, who purchased the county press in 2009, has been an ardent supporter of the Lapeer community through advocacy, in-kind donations, and sponsorships of local organizations and events, and serves on a number of local boards. I'm grateful to serve on the Lapeer County Community Foundation board with him. The View newspaper group now includes 15 community newspapers with weekly print circulation of 250,000 copies and 100 employees, most of whom work at the company's headquarters in the County Press building here in Lapeer. Now to speak on Rick's behalf is his friend and colleague, Wes Smith.
Thank you. Nice to be here today. I met Rick in 1980 when he was still in high school. He was hired to mow the lawn and chop firewood for County Press owner Bob Myers. Rick came to work at the County Press full-time after he graduated, and I was actually his supervisor at that time. I don't think either of us would have predicted we'd still be working together 3.5 decades later. In that time, Rick has built one of the largest independently owned newspaper printing facilities in Michigan at Michigan Web Press, as well as one of the largest community newspaper groups in Michigan. In building the View newspaper group, Rick has adhered to a vision that defines the success of community newspapers, not just in terms of balance sheets and P&L statements, but for him, success is also defined by the role a newspaper plays in its community and in the lives of its readers. For Rick, that's not a passive role. He expects his reporters, editors, and yes, even its publisher to be visible, active, and accessible in the community, and he expects no less from himself. Rick serves on a number of boards and is a member of local service clubs. He personally donates his time and money to many local charities and nonprofits. Through his newspapers, he gives back even more through both monetary and in-kind donations to dozens of community fundraising efforts and events. That's to say nothing of the coverage that we give all of those events and all of those nonprofits and charities. Rick almost lost that first job at the County Press because he wasn't stacking the firewood to Bob Myers' liking, which, if any of you know Myers, you'd understand that. Fortunately for our entire community, Rick prevailed, and if Myers were around today, I have no doubt he would be pleased at the way Rick has returned the County Press to prominence, and he'd be proud of Rick's determination to make sure that that paper makes a positive contribution to our community. I'm honored to introduce Rick Burrow.
Thanks, Wes. It was very nice. I'd like to thank the Lapeer Community Schools, the Alumni Association, the nominating committee and everyone involved for selecting me for this honor. Congratulations to my fellow inductees. You, along with other members of this hall, represent the very best of Lapeer Community Schools in our community. And thanks again, Wes, for nominating me, presenting me. I'm not sure why you did that, but hopefully it wasn't because your annual review is coming up at the end of the year. 'Cause that's not going to factor into it. And also thanks to my family and friends for coming today. And a special thanks to my mom, Pat. Say hi. You're the greatest. You're the greatest, Mom. Love you. My dad is not here today. He passed away last year. But I'm sure if he were, the first thing he'd say to my mom is, how the hell did this award get presented to Rick? Is that not true, Mom? For sure. But then the next morning, he would go to the coffee shop and brag about me to everybody. So that's just the way he was. Old school, true and true. To talk a little bit about my belief in the community schools program in Lapeer, the education obviously is the most important part of it. And I think that we've made great strides here in Lapeer with that. The community schools gave me a great foundation for life, and although this may come as a shock to some, admittedly I was not the greatest student throughout my school years. I had the help and support of the teaching staff and the coaching staff. Participating in athletic programs at every level from grade school through high school, athletics had a major impact on me in forming the values that guide me through my life. It would be hard for me to overstate what I feel is the tremendous importance of building quality high school athletic programs and encouraging our students to participate in those programs. That participation teaches team building, a healthy lifestyle, and prepares our young student athletes for leadership roles that help shape their future. I, for one, am an example of how athletics provided an otherwise disinterested student the incentive to study and achieve good grades to stay eligible for sports. I'm an example of how coaches like Fisher, Nikosny, Twing, Gleason, Warner, Gerlach, Schmidt, Oyster, and others have pushed me to be the best and helped me develop a winning attitude. Those things allow me to define and achieve success after high school and ultimately to be able to give back to my alma mater and our community. For that, I'm ever grateful to Lapeer Community Schools. Thank you.
Thanks, Rick. Our next inductee is 1965 Lapeer High School graduate Connie Helm Feifer. Throughout her 41-year career training caregivers to work alongside and care for people with disabilities, Connie earned the respect and admiration of her colleagues. She earned a bachelor's degree in education from the University of Michigan and a master's degree in leadership and administration from Eastern Michigan University, earning both while working full-time and raising a family. Connie spent 21 years working at Oakdale Regional Center in Lapeer, and after it closed, she worked at the Clinton Valley Center and the Macomb-Oakland Regional Center, MORC, retiring from her life's work in 2013. In 18 years at MORC, she trained over 11,000 direct support professionals. Kim Junti, Director of Training at MORC, said Connie was a favorite among those under her tutelage. She was deeply committed to teaching positive, proactive strategies that led those we service to feeling safer and more valued in the world. Before we bring Michelle Feifer, Connie's daughter, up to introduce her, we have a special message from Nashville, Tennessee.
Hi Amanda, this is Kyle from Nashville. I'm really sorry that I couldn't make it home this weekend for your special day. I just wanted to say congratulations. I'm so happy that your community is recognizing how great you are. We've always known, but it's really special that they're recognizing it. I wish I could be there. Love you. See you soon.
Michelle?
Hello, my name is Michelle Feifer, and I am a Lapeer teacher. You'll see in a minute when my mom talks that we are a Lapeer family. I guess I just wanted to start, I'm a little choked up because that was my son Kyle, who's away at college, but I don't have anything written down, and I want to share why. It's fitting that this ceremony is also recognizing Phyllis Lang, because I did my student teaching with Phyllis. So, I have a little side story about Phyllis. She taught me how to teach without lesson plans. You didn't hear that. And when I first graduated from college, my first interview was at Davison Schools, and I knew some of the principals really well. I had been doing some long-term subbing, and I thought, oh, I'll be a shoo-in. Well, when it was my turn, they called me, and I had the superintendent that was going to be interviewing me. And one of the questions he said to me was, so tell me about lesson plans. And me being very young and, kind of unexperienced, I said, well, the supervising teacher that I was with taught me how to fly by the seat of my pants. Yeah, well, needless to say, I did not get that job. But I do make lesson plans now. Yeah. So anyway, I was very fortunate to be hired in Lapeer, and this is where I truly belong anyway. So when we got an email from Jared Field, which happy birthday, by the way. When we got an email that came across my desk, it was about this hall of, I was kind of like, what is this? And I read about it, and my mom just came right to my mind, because I grew up with such a wonderful role model, and as she was teaching, as Sue said, the 11,000 people that came through her training that she taught how to be good caregivers, I would hear the stories that she would bring home, and she would read me the letters and the cards that they gave her, how she was one of their favorites, and it just seemed very fitting that my mom would deserve this honor. So she also recently retired, and so I contacted her coworkers, and one of them is here, Julia, and they helped write supporting letters to nominate my mother. And I think that I think my mom is talking to me now. She when she first heard of this honor, she wasn't very happy with me, because she felt that she wasn't doing anything that some of the other trainers weren't doing, that she was just doing her job, and she didn't really feel deserving. And I tried to explain, yes, Mom, they all do, some of the others are doing just as good of a job as you are, but they didn't graduate from Lapeer. So they didn't have this, maybe they would have got nominated too if they did. But so once I said that, then she started to take it all in a little, and like I said, I think she's speaking to me now, and so I'd like to introduce my mother, who I'm very proud of, Connie Feifer.
Well, I too didn't write anything down because I spent many years standing in front of a group of people and talking, and I always felt very comfortable with it. But I have been retired for 3 years, so I'm feeling a little nervous behind the podium, and especially when my daughter just stole some of the things I was going to say. Just the one line about how they didn't graduate from Lapeer, even though they were just as good. And she's right, I didn't feel deserving or worthy of this honor, but I am very appreciative and humbled by it. Lapeer and Lapeer schools have always been a very important part of my life. And sorry, I should have written it down because my mind's going blank now. Even though I lived in Davison for over 40 years, I still think of Lapeer as home. This is where I grew up. This is where I went to school. Literally, this is where I went to school. I attended this building, Irwin, back in the mid-50s when it was only a couple years old and it was only half the size that it is now. And Miss Murphy's, the principal, her office was right across the hall. And my teachers, Mrs. Smith and Mrs. Cruz and Mrs. Lockwood and Mrs. Swab, were some of my favorite teachers. And I spent my years from 2nd through 5th grade here. And this was the cafeteria. And unlike most of my classmates, I was always happy on the rare occasions when the cafeteria ladies made, to me, delicious split pea soup. It was always my favorite lunch from this cafeteria. This building, as my daughter also said, has another special meaning because this is where she did her student teaching, and the very room where I attended 2nd grade with Mrs. Smith. She did her 1st grade student teaching with Mrs. Lang. And I'm so happy that she had that experience with Mrs. Lang. My brother, my younger brother, Doug, who lives in Chattanooga, he and I were very fortunate to have been raised in Lapeer and to be raised by our parents, Maurice and Ione Helm. And I got choked up because when I got here today, I saw Mrs. Jessup, and she said, "Connie, you're the reason I'm here today," because she taught with my mother. And it just pleased me so much that she and Mr. Jessup were here. Anyways, my father was very involved in the community. He owned Helm Sewing Center in downtown Lapeer from the late 40s to the mid-70s. And he too was involved with the schools because he sold and serviced the sewing machines that were used in the high school home ec room, where I took home ec classes when I got to high school, and where my daughter is actually just moving into the old home ec room for one of her classes. My father at one time was also the president of the Lapeer Chamber of Commerce. My mother grew up in Lapeer, and she attended Lapeer County Normal, where she graduated, and she taught in several of the one-room schoolhouses throughout the area in the 1930s and 1940s. And in the 1950s, she got her bachelor's degree, and she became the original 5th grade teacher at Mayfield Elementary School when they opened in 1957. My father passed away in 1999. My mother passed away in 1994. And when she passed away, I started a scholarship in her memory that we gave for the next few years to deserving seniors who were going to go into the field of education. I'm very proud of my roots in Lapeer. I'm very proud of my parents. I'm very proud of my daughter. And I'm very proud of my granddaughter, Kelsey, because she is following in the family footsteps, and she will graduate next year from Central Michigan University as the 4th generation teacher in the family. And she is planning on being a high school English teacher. Out of 4 generations, she's the first to be brave enough to want to teach at the high school level. I'm also very proud of my grandson, who as you already know, isn't here today because he's attending his freshman year at Vanderbilt University in Nashville in their pre-med program. And that was a complete surprise. Did you know he was doing that? Oh, well, not a good way to be surprised just before you're going to speak. I'm also very proud of the people that I worked with over the years, and I'm so happy that one of them is here today, Julia Witcher, and her little boy, Gavin. And Julia and I worked together for many years as trainers, and it was very important to us and to the other training staff that we worked with to not only teach the caregivers the skills that they needed, such as taking a blood pressure and knowing how to read a thermometer and how to do first aid for seizures and how to correctly fill out a medication record and how to know how to read a recipe and when to change the batteries in the smoke detectors and how to use the fire extinguisher, all these skills that they would need in their job. But to us, on top of just knowing those skills, it was important that they know how important their jobs were. And in my mind, they're the ones that deserve to be honored because they have a very difficult job with many challenges, many demands made upon them, and a boatload of responsibility, which is recognized with very little pay and very little benefits. And we want, Julia and I and some of the other trainers, we really made a point to let them know how valuable they were and how important their job was and what a difference they made in the lives of the people they cared for. Because with some of the people they cared for, they were the only friend that person had. They had no family or no friends. And so it was really important that we stressed to them how important they were in the lives of the people they cared for and how to treat those people so that the people felt safe and they felt loved and they felt like they belonged and that they had opportunities and that they could do things that they were never allowed to do before. That they didn't have to be hidden away in institutions anymore. It was also important for me to let them know that whether their dream job was to be a caregiver or whether they were just killing time until another job to their liking came along, I always stressed to them that whether you're in it for a lifetime or in it for just a few weeks, to the person you're caring for, you're an extremely important person, and it's important that you be the best caregiver that you know how to be. And I always shared with them how, I'm so happy Julia's here. I haven't seen her in a long time. Sorry. It was always important to me to let them know that they weren't just learning from me or from Julia or the other trainers. We were all learning from each other. And we all brought experiences and opportunities, and we all learned from each other. And I learned from them as well, and I always made sure to point that out to them and let them know how valuable they were. I wanted to share with you this note that I received from a lady in my training about a year before I retired, not because I want to pat myself on the back, but because of the lesson I learned from what she wrote to me. Yesterday, I experienced a tragic loss in my life. This morning, I didn't know if I could get out of bed, let alone attend this class. Life teaches you to just keep going, so I am. God must have seen my grief, and so he sent you to teach this class. Your voice and words are comforting. You keep us engaged, and that distracts me. You gave freely of your time. I'm glad that I came today. Thank you for teaching today's class, but really, thanks for being here and being you, Tina. And that just really pointed out to me and stressed how much we impact others. Sometimes when we're not even aware of it, we're not even trying to, we're just doing our job, we're just being us. And so always try, I'm an ex-teacher, has to teach a lesson here, always try to remember to be kind with your words and your actions, because you never know how it's going to impact somebody else. And the other lesson I learned from this note from Tina is, when somebody touches your heart, let them know, because they may not have had any idea of their impact to you. And with that, I would like to thank Michelle for nominating me, even though, as she said, I wasn't real happy about it at first. But I am very humbled by it, and it turned out to be a very nice thing. I'm also very thankful for Julia being here, and it really means a lot to me. I miss being with her on a daily basis. And I learned a lot. Julia always said she learned so much from me, because when she came into the training department, I was her mentor. But I can't tell you how much I learned from Julia. She has such a wonderful way with how she treats people. And I'd also like to thank Mrs. Jessup and Mr. Jessup for being here. As I said, I was so surprised when I saw her, and even more surprised when she said I was the reason she was here, because her and my mom taught together. And she was a good customer in my dad's sewing machine store. And I remember Mr. Jessup was an administrator, and they were important. And she also made the comment, she wished my parents were here, and so do I. And I also would like to thank the nominating committee, whoever and wherever you are, for selecting me. I really do appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, Connie, you sure touched our hearts today. Thank you. Our third inductee is 1986 Lapeer East graduate Gary Phillips. A strong supporter of Lapeer community for many years, Gary is the director of chassis components and plant manager at ZF in Lapeer. He's been in this position since 2004, managing 360 employees. Karen Rosso, ZF's HR director, said his number one priority is his family. So he goes the extra mile to ensure that his employees are able to care for their families. When one of our own is in need, he will personally ensure that that person gets support, she said. Phillips is a well-known and respected member of this Lapeer community. He serves on the Lapeer Library Board, has been involved in the Adopt a Highway program, including a 3-mile stretch of I-69. ZF annually hosts a charity golf outing and is an active supporter of schools. This support includes annual scholarships to Lapeer graduates, grants to Lapeer robotics, and an educational assistance to students interested in manufacturing and skilled trades. In Gary's first year at ZF, he started the ZF Scholarship, then known as Lemforder, for Lapeer students. It is the most valuable scholarship at $4,000 each, given at honors convocation and tour given each year. And he offers an open door to explore internships and employment to those students. Our high school students have benefited from his openness to show them manufacturing through job shadows. And now to speak on Gary's behalf is his sister, Kelly Pettibone.
Thank you. Welcome. What an honor it is to speak regarding my brother today. About 2 hours before we were getting ready to come here, my sister, the oldest, she asked me to read a few things regarding Gary. So I'm going to read hers first. Gary was born February 22nd, 1968, and he was named after 2 of his uncles. When Mom and Dad went to the Lapeer Hospital where he was born, Kathy and I, of course, was hoping for a girl, but of course our brother Greg was hoping for a boy, so you know who won. Between Kathy and Gary, there's like 9.5 years age difference, so Kathy is more like, has been like a mother hen to Gary. So one time, she always watched him like during the summer breaks and during snow days. So one snow day, Dad had told her the night before, whatever you do, do not go out on the roads because it's really bad. Well, Gary did something wrong, and she had to discipline him. So, of course, whenever she disciplined Gary, she had to reward him with something. So he wanted to go to Perry's drugstore in Lapeer and get a wooden airplane that cost like $0.25. So Kathy, of course, loads Gary up into the my dad's truck and takes Gary on his way down Daly Road to Perry's. Well, of course, they end up in the ditch. So, of course, they had to walk back home, and Gary complained all the way back home. And then Kathy actually told Dad that it was Gary's fault that she went in the ditch. Kathy wanted you to know how proud she is when you received your master's degree, how proud everyone was when he received his master's degree from Central Michigan University. When you was walking up there, her eyes filled with tears, and Dad was so proud of you. And she is very proud of all your accomplishments and your wonderful family. Congratulations on your reward. Now, growing up, Gary, as you guys all know, was the baby of 4, so everyone babied him. Of course, Kathy, especially. Our parents were all about family. We may not have had everything growing up, but pretty close. We did have wonderful parents. After graduation, Gary was accepted at Eastern Michigan University, the first of 4 to go to college. We were all so proud of him. Although he didn't stay there for very long because of a girl, he was home every weekend. His journey then took him to Walsh College, where he earned his bachelor's degree in accounting and business administration. Then he graduated with his master's from accounting. During his educational journey, Gary married Jennifer. We lost our mom. They had their firstborn, Lindsay. Secondborn, they lost their second child, Zoe. And then their daughter, Olivia, was born. And then their son, Griffin. Plus working full-time, going to school full-time, and being a husband, father, son, brother, a friend to everyone, he never looked back. 4 years ago, we lost our dad, our rock. I remember calling and talking with Gary. I told him that my heart was ripped out. Something was missing. He told me that he would like to be my rock. This brought tears to my eyes. He always has time for family. As mentioned earlier, Gary does serve on some boards. Gary has been a member of the local Development Financial Authority for Lapeer Industrial Park since 2010. He has been on the Lapeer District Library member since 2014, and of course he serves as the director at ZF for 15 years. While there, some of his accomplishments include plant growth by $1 million in annual revenue. He exceeds targets for profit, cash flow, and investment. Produced jobs for Lapeer and developed a third-party off-site warehouse to support growth. He developed, deployed, and drove accountability to annual targets with linkages to divisional, regional, and corporate objectives throughout the team. The list goes on and on. One thing for sure is that my brother Gary is genuine. He truly cares about others and is always willing to help out. Now, I did get some things from some people at his job, so these are testimonials from those he works with. Gary's heart and soul is with family first and foremost. He also extends that same relationship to those he works with and definitely treats everyone with it as an extension of his family. He insists that everyone take care of their family first and spends as much time with their family as possible. He wouldn't have it any other way. Gary is responsible for millions of dollars in business, but his first focus is and always will be the well-being and safety of the Lapeer team. He provides an excellent quality of work life for everyone in the plant so that when we go home at the end of our day, our focus and well-being can be with our family and friends. There isn't anyone in this plant who doesn't respect or appreciate Gary for everything he does, both professionally and personally. Gary is a colleague, a mentor, and a leader, but most importantly, he is a friend to everyone he works with. No matter how busy Gary is with business, he always stops and takes time for everyone in the plant. Gary always tells everyone that these are just auto parts. He always says this when things are really stressful, and he wants us to put what matters first: friends, family, safety, etc. Everyone who knows Gary knows this is his famous quote. Let's not forget Gary's humorous side either. If you ever need a laugh, just find Gary. Mom and Dad are looking down on you and are surely proud of your accomplishments, as I am. One more thing. Here's the Corvette Mom always promised you.
Wow. Last time I had to speak in front of a crowd that wasn't work-related. My son had made it so I couldn't talk, But congratulations to my sister. She did a great job. She was a little nervous, which makes me nervous now, but, and I'm looking for some of that humor, quite honestly, but, first I want to thank Lapeer Community Schools. I walked across the stage 30 years ago with Mr. Fell shaking my hand, giving me my diploma, my walking papers, so to speak, and I figured, okay, I'm done. I lived in the community. I was born and raised here, but I thought, like Rick explained, I definitely wasn't a valedictorian. I wasn't salutatorian. I don't know what they'd call me, but I was about halfway down the list at least. At least. So I should have done much better, and I think I did. But, and I want to thank the alumni committee as well. I want to personally thank Karen Rosso. She wrote a very nice letter. So now I need the humor. The Corvette story, real quick. I actually started as pre-med and at Eastern, so it wasn't just about a girl, but that kind of changed my plan. But I did start in pre-med. I love science. One of the reasons, Mr. White right there, who I didn't know was going to be here, but definitely somebody I admire. But I changed my plan. I thought there's no way in heck I can go to school 8 years. Well, I was on the long path for my bachelor's, so it ended up being that way. So I started out majoring in biology, and I think back then I probably could have done it. Today at 48, not so much. But I look back at my life, and what's kind of interesting is there's a real cross section of my history here. I mean, obviously my brother and my sisters, who've known me longer than I've known them, right? So to speak. Daly's, John Daly's here, Karen. Great neighbors, great neighborhood. As Kelly said, we were blessed. We had a great childhood. I can't blame any of my faults on my parents. I can blame my brother and my sisters, and God knows I blame them a lot. But when I look at my life, I think about influences. And again, looking at the room, I got my kids, my wife, friends, coworkers, who are more than just coworkers. So my life is that accumulation of thousands of events. Could be a conversation, could just be a brief interaction, could be a lifelong relationship, education, which is extremely important to me. I see members of the library board who are new in my life, and just stay tuned. My little plug is you're going to see great things from the library board in supporting this community, and we hope we have your support too. Education. I was afforded a great education by Lapeer Community Schools. There was as much there as I wanted. Part of the problem at times was I didn't know what I wanted. I wasn't mature enough, right? So I graduated. Unfortunately, I wasn't in sports like Rick. That would have been a good outlet maybe to help me concentrate a little more. But I did okay. I got out. then I took that beyond. I knew I wanted to go to college. I knew that I had to do something different. I did okay in my bachelor's program. I went to several different schools. Kelly was kind. I went to Eastern Michigan University. I transferred home. I started going to U of M Flint. I even took a few classes at Mott, and then I started working full-time at EDS. And when I was working at EDS back in the 90s, I went to Walsh, an excellent accounting school. No regrets. Yeah, I was on the 7-year plan. And people have teased me about that a few times, but most of the people that tease me about that have never gotten their bachelor's degree. So when they get that, they can let me know. I did okay. In my bachelor's as well. I could have done better. But when I got to my master's, I was finally mature enough to take these skills that I was learning, through school, through work, and I got all A's in every class except stats. I got a B. So I almost took stats over just to have a 4.0, but I decided enough was enough. So I really, and from my side, I want to do more, to educate, because education is a two-way street. I want to ensure that my kids are getting a great education. I want to make sure that other people's kids are. I still want to educate myself more. And the fortunate thing is that because I work with a lot of excellent people, I interact with a lot of excellent people, I learn things every day. Even when people don't realize. And I think Connie said it pretty well. We all need to do a better job of acknowledging people that touch our lives and have an impact on us. And then we also need to respect and understand how we affect people. Coming back to family a little bit, and Matt and I saw Matt the other day, and Matt asked me, we were at a library event, he said, "Did you write your speech?" I'm like, "No, I don't like writing speeches." But then I actually wrote a speech. So I think I jinxed myself a little bit, but then I scrapped that. I let Jennifer read it this morning, and I scrapped it. But, some things I want to touch on in family is, as people said, family is very important. And I'm not always the best family member, Sometimes I'm really good. Sometimes I don't do that well. But I think we're all like that, right? I think the one thing, though, is that I always learn. I'm constantly learning. So, we had great parents, and I don't want to dwell on the sad part. Our parents aren't here, today, but they are here. They created an excellent home for us. And I capitalized home in my written speech, but that's really what it was, a home. We were safe. We were loved. We were respected. We were cared for. Our parents really liked us, well, most of the time. I can remember a couple events, maybe, but truly, they wanted to spend time with us. It was so strange because 99% of the time, they would never get daycare or, somebody to watch. They always, if they had an event, they took us with them. And I didn't see that with everybody. I saw that with the Daly family, of course. Right, John? So we had a great support structure. I look at, Kelly mentioned Kathy. We have a couple years between us. We both have the same color hair now, but. But we have a few years between us. But Kathy really was like a second mom. I didn't need a second mom because my mom was a great mom, right? But it just worked out that way. And it worked well for me. As Kelly said, I was a little bit spoiled. And I'm used to getting what I like, what I want. But I really appreciate that, and I don't think she completely understands. She's done the same thing with my kids. I know that she'd lay her life down for my kids, which is important. Kelly, very much the same way. Kelly and I were closer in age, so we'd play a lot of games. We'd do Donnie and Marie. I won't do that right now because I've been banned from singing. But we had one of those great big chest stereos in the front living room. We'd put an 8-track in, and we'd pretend we're Donnie and Marie. She also reminded me we used to do the dating game. We'd move the front door. We'd have these bar stools we'd sit on, and we'd ask each other questions. Don't read too much into it. We really didn't date. So, my brother, which he probably doesn't realize, but I worked for my brother for a while. My brother and I are 7 years apart, so we didn't hang out as much, and sometimes he said I was kind of like the sister because, I didn't do sports and stuff, but that's fine. That's okay. But I went to work for him in Bonanza in Mount Clemens, and he taught me, well, first of all, I didn't want to embarrass him. I don't think he ever said, "Don't embarrass me here," but, I worked my tail off. I tried to make him proud, and he taught me a lot. And everybody hates my bonanza stories. My family does, because I truly learned a lot from a restaurant. That's where I really started to build my management skills, my skill set I got from there. So I appreciate that. I don't think I ever told him that. Jennifer, she encouraged me to take the leap to leave EDS. I worked at EDS for 10 years. I loved EDS. It's a great company. Spent 10 years there. Jen said, why don't you work closer to home? I was driving an hour each way, right? Down M24. I said, there's no way I can find a job making what I make in Lapeer. Well, usually wives are right. She proved me wrong, and I did. I quit. My last day was February 11th of 2000. Remember when 2000 came around, how the world was going to end? The IT industry made millions and billions. So I remember my mentor at EDS, Ed Rotz. I went in and told him I was leaving. He said, damn it, why are you leaving? And I told him why I was leaving, because I want to be closer to my family. That's my community. That's where I live. He said, I'm not going to try to talk you out of it. And I know the Bakers have seen Ed Rotz in a different set of circumstances. So he was my mentor at EDS. So most of the time he didn't know that. He probably didn't know that until that last conversation we had about that. So they encouraged me. My kids, I learn a lot from my kids. Very proud of my kids. And I try to be the best dad I can. Some days I'm better than others. Some days they're really good kids, some days they're not so good. Right? So we're kind of evening things out. I'm very humbled though by this. I'm very humbled by this. If anybody really knows me, I always joke that I'm a quiet person. I'm not funny, although I guess I made you guys laugh a few times. But this isn't me. When I got that letter from Matt, and then suddenly I got an email from Jared saying, you got to send some pictures and somebody's got to talk about you. I'm like, I was in panic. I'm like, what have I done? All I do is what I do. I'm not doing anything special. I'm just being me. I'm being the person that my parents started, that foundation, and I'm being that person. I'm just building on it. And all of you guys, a lot of you guys in this room have contributed to that. Some of you will contribute more. And I've had a great career. I've been very lucky. I've been lucky when, career-wise. When I first came home, or back to Lapeer to work, I worked at ZF. I only worked there 6 months. Karen remembers, right? And I actually left. No, you weren't there at the time, sorry. I worked there for 6 months and I left. When I went there, I had gone from this extremely structured EDS, ties and suits, very organized, to this little plant who the two head people would argue with each other all the time. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I just put my career in the hands of these two. I said idiots at the time, so. But anyway, so I got an opportunity at Duracon. And Duracon was a great opportunity for me. I only spent about a year and a half there, but I launched a plant for them in Mexico. So my background's always been in finance and accounting. I got operational experience there, which has really changed my life. I got experience, too, of how to really appreciate the community we have. I don't know how many people have worked in manufacturing in Mexico, but it's a lot different than down the street here, where I get to work every single day. So after that, I got asked back to ZF, and then about 2 years later, the person that was the plant manager took an assignment in Australia. And when he took that assignment, I remember having a conversation with him. I said, well, do you think, and Tom was the boss, like he was the boss. I said, do you think Tom would consider me for your job? He said, well, I don't think so. You don't have the right background. And anybody that knows me, don't tell me I can't. Don't tell me I won't or I shouldn't. Because if my mind's set, I'm going to. And I did. So I became the plant manager. And I've never looked back. I'm not here to pat myself on the back, but I do an excellent job. We have an excellent organization, and I'm blessed with surrounding myself with extremely smart people, and some of them are here today to show their support, which I greatly appreciate. But that's really the key for me and my success at work, is I don't want to be the smartest guy. That's the last thing I want. Matt and I talked about this a little bit the other day. Surround yourself with the right people. On the community side, we touched on a little bit. I've been part of the LDFA, which is a finance authority, really managing the industrial park. Also, as Sue pointed out, scholarships and things like that. Again, education is the most important thing. Knowledge is power. And now I've ended up on the library board. I ended up on the library board because somebody asked me, hey, would you be interested? Now, I'm not a super user of the library, but I also understand the value of libraries in education and knowledge in our society. So I'm blessed to have 3 members from the board here today who just got to know me, in the past year and a half, and so far they are not mad at me yet. So I guess we're working out pretty well. But that's just another little piece of what I have in my head in terms of trying to get back to the community. My parents taught me some very valuable lessons, and then I'm almost done because I stand between you guys and refreshments, right? My mom, and some people will remember this, and Jennifer stayed with us for a while, so she'll remember this. My mom had the strongest work ethic of anybody I knew. And sometimes I drive myself crazy because I think I'm trying to do the same thing. She has strong work ethic. Hard to say that. The other thing that I learned from her that I try to emulate is she also had this strong desire to care for people. She's very quiet, a quiet soul. She would never be doing this. She would never do what Kelly just did. She was the quiet person in the background that made sure everybody had what they needed. She worked full-time in a blue-collar job every single day. She went to work with snow up to her rear end, as she would tell us at times, right? And she came home and put a meal on the table every day. She rolled us out of bed on the weekends to wash the beds way too early. That's the lesson Jen learned when she had to stay with us for a while. My mom literally rolled her out of bed one time. But that was Beverly Phillips. We lost her way too early. She was 59 in 1994. Devastating. I was 25. Wasn't prepared. Not that you're ever really prepared. So those are two real things. And the funny thing, until I get to this age, I'm 48 now, I didn't really understand some of those lessons I have learned. And I'm sure there's still other lessons that I don't fully understand. Dad learned some things from him too. My dad never met a stranger. I can remember going grocery shopping with him at Hamady or Kroger's, and literally, we'd be there for hours because he knew everybody. And the reason why I went grocery shopping, by the way, is because he complained once to my mom about what she bought. She said, okay. It's now your job. It's now your job. And I liked it better when he went because he didn't buy all the, the yellow and black label stuff, if anybody's old enough to remember that stuff. Yeah, he'd buy the good stuff, but he never met a stranger. He had this deep, I don't know the right word, whether it's empathy, he had this deep empathy for people. And he had a huge level of understanding and tolerance. Because again, my parents were born in the 30s. They didn't see a lot of the things we see in today's society. But my dad, when my mom died, he became mom too. I was amazed. I never talked to my dad on the phone until after my mom died. It was amazing how he transitioned. He did a great job. So my life is a combination of all those things. And there's still a whole bunch to learn. One thing Matt and I talked about is he said, coming here today is kind of like hearing your eulogy. And I did check my pulse. I'm still breathing. But I think he's right. He's right because, what was said about Rick and Connie, it is kind of like getting that window that most people don't get. So that's another aspect of this. My dad, he passed in 12, right after the holidays. He said something. I'll try to get through this because I didn't do it at his funeral, but he said one of his last words was, we had a good run. And when you think about that, so here's a man who's 79, had suffered from COPD, emphysema. When he was talking to us, and it was Greg and Kathy and Kelly, my brother-in-laws, my sister-in-law Sherry, and Jennifer were in the room, standing around the bed, he said, we've had a good run. He was so calm, so at peace. I thought about that phrase a lot. That means it's so profound, yet so simple. And I hope when I get to the end that I can say with the same calmness and satisfaction that I had a good run. So I'm still working on my run. And I appreciate everybody's support. And again, I'm extremely honored and humbled. And I want to dedicate this award to my parents who provided the foundation. And that's really what has made the difference. So thank you.
I just feel better after being here, don't you? This has been a wonderful, wonderful day. Such hearty congratulations to our 3 very deserving awardees today. So as we close today's event, we welcome Lapeer High School Choir with Director Tom Kaiser to sing our alma mater.
I just wanted to say that the class of 1950, under Mrs. Moore, developed that song. And I got buddies who remind me of that, you know, and especially Bob Lowey when he talks about it and where those maples were and where they cast their shadows. So thank you. That was quite an experience.
That was nice. Well, congratulations to our 2016 inductees, Rick, Connie, and Gary. Thank you to our speakers for giving us a closer look into these fine people. Thank you, our honorees, alumni, friends, and family for joining us today in recognition and reunion today. We hope that you'll take a few minutes for some conversation and some memories to share down the hallway. There's some cookies and punch and some nice memorabilia for you to see. And thanks again for coming today.